As Prime Minister Modi attends the BRICS summits, new threats have come from Donald Trump. Trump is now ranting against the countries present at the BRICS summit. This, even as the army has revealed that India was not just battling Pakistan in Operation Sindoor, but in fact battling China as well. Is India now caught in a conundrum, an odd kind of conundrum, where on the one hand there are threats from Donald Trump? He's a real headache. And on the other hand, we now know that militarily, China used, to quote the army, Pakistan like a borrowed knife. I'm Barkha Dutt, you're with the Mojo story. On the program today, we look at where India's foreign policy and security challenges lie, even as the Prime Minister attends the BRICS summit with leaders of Brazil, Russia, China, among others. This, even as the army has revealed that India wasn't just battling one adversary, but three. The army has listed China as a country that was treating Pakistan as a live laboratory during Operation Sindoor. How do we make sense of these multiple security challenges, even as Donald Trump rants against countries present at the BRICS summit and threatens or vows a possible 10% increase in tariffs against countries that pursue quote unquote an anti America policy? Is India really battling at this moment twin challenges from China, as clear in Operation Sindoor, and from Trump? Let me introduce our guest today as we look at the different ramifications of this situation. Happy Mon Jacobs, strategic affairs analyst, is with us. We're also joined by veteran diplomat Ambassador Sinha, and also joining us is military analyst and military veteran General Dhruv Katoj. Welcome everybody to the program. I'll start with you, Ambassador Sinha. How do we make sense of the fact that despite the army revealing that China used Pakistan like a borrowed knife, here we are at the BRICS summit, and on the other hand, you have Trump vowing to take action against countries that he doesn't specify India, but he's ranting against the BRICS summit. And some might wonder, why are we at the BRICS summit, given the revelations that have been made about China's role in Operation Sindoor? Ambassador Sinha.
Right about our presence over there, but at least one person in this world is taking this BRICS summit seriously, and that is President Trump, because Putin has said it is not fit to go. Xi Jinping has said it's not worth traveling all the way across to Rio de Janeiro for this. He has sent his prime minister. Now, there is speculation that Xi Jinping is weakening in China, which I don't think is necessarily correct, although I'm not an expert on China. But the fact is that just last month, Xi Jinping had gone to visit Central Asia in a special China Central Asia summit meeting, which means that where it matters for him, he goes himself. So the fact that he has not gone to BRICS means that he has decided that BRICS is no longer important. Some couple of years ago or sometime back, it had certain amount of importance, but now China no longer sees BRICS as a forum through which it can promote its global hegemony. But that is precisely what China wants to do. China initially thought of joining BRICS with India when we wanted a multipolar world, when we wanted to counter the US-led international order. And India was very keen on doing that, and we have spent our entire careers trying to counter the US-led international order. But now we realize that what is likely to replace a US-led international order will be a China-led international order, which will be infinitely much worse for India because of our security concerns with China. And these security concerns with China are not new. They have always been there, but this last war that we had with Pakistan has brought that to the fore. We had to back out of one particular declaration on the SCO, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and now in BRICS we have this jumbo declaration. Well, we have gone there, but I don't think anybody takes it seriously except Trump.
Well, let me ask you, you believe that India's presence at BRICS is almost cosmetic. Do you believe that given the revelations made by the army about China's role, India should have opted out, Ambassador Sinha?
I think we should have, because the fact that the other two major members with whom we founded BRICS, we were the original founders of BRICS along with Brazil. And Brazil also doesn't attach much importance to India now. Its trade with China is much bigger than its trade with India. Uh, uh, Mr. Lula had visited China recently. Xi Jinping had visited uh, Brazil. So their relationship is much stronger, and we are kind of left out from this. And in the declaration, as we go into it, there are certain issues on which I take exception. We can go into that later. But I agree with you that I don't think there's any particular reason for us to have gone there, at least in this kind of fanfare, and then expose ourselves as being the progenitors or the makers and movers of BRICS, and then incurring the wrath of President Trump.
So, in a way, you're saying it's lose lose. You have this security challenge from China, you have Trump being irritated, and what has India gained? Before I open this up, I think it's important to talk about China's role in Operation Sindoor as revealed by the Deputy Chief of Army over the weekend. Let's take a look.
Few lessons that I thought I must flag as far as Operation Sindoor is concerned. Firstly, one border, two adversaries. So we saw Pakistan one side, but adversaries were two, and if I would say actually four or three actually. So Pakistan was the front face. We had China providing all possible support, and it's no surprise because if you were to look at statistics, in the last 5 years, 81% of the military hardware that Pakistan is getting is all Chinese, 81% of that. So it's no surprise. And China, of course, the good old dictum, killed by a borrowed knife, 36 stratagems that China talks about, killed by a borrowed knife. So he would rather use the neighbor to cause pain than getting involved in the mud slinging match on the northern border. So that is what he's seen. And another thing that China perhaps has seen is that he's able to test his weapons against, say, various other weapon systems that are there. It's like a live lab which is available to. So it's a good, that is what is something we have to be very, very cognizant about.
The army could not have been more blunt, General Katoch. China using Pakistan like a borrowed knife. China, doing live testing as if Pakistan's a laboratory. It was one border but three adversaries. Given this revelation, do you agree with Ambassador Sinha that it was more sensible to not have gone, at least not for the Prime Minister, to have gone to the BRICS summit, given that Xi Jinping and Putin have both stayed out or stayed away? Can we unmute General Katoch, please?
Yeah, you can hear
So
me
you
now?
muted it? Yeah.
Yeah, now I'm unmuted. Huh? Yeah, I've got a slightly different opinion from Ambassador Sinha, though I appreciate that view. President Putin didn't come for the very simple reason that he would have put Brazil in an embarrassing situation. He's under threat of being arrested. So the question is, if he comes there, will he be arrested or not? And obviously, they can't arrest him. So I think President Putin chose to stay out. As far as Xi Jinping is concerned, the guest of honor in this particular case was the Indian Prime Minister. There was no way in Xi Jinping would have taken that. I think it was much more of a protocol issue for Xi Jinping rather than anything else. So having said that, no, I think in my personal view, we need to attend these. Otherwise, you're left, if you aren't sitting in the table, then you're left out. So going there, yeah, we project our viewpoint and we do what we have to do. Now, as far as the deputy chief statement, the point is we all know that the way Pakistan uses terrorism as a proxy, they use the terrorists as a proxy. China uses Pakistan as a proxy against India, and that is a well-known fact, not just from now. We knew it for ages. But then, when we are doing our foreign policy, we have got to navigate all these things. We still have to work with China. We still have to work with the United States. And when it comes to the Indo-Pacific, our interests align with the US against China. And we are very comfortable with that. When it comes to the continental shelf, we have interests which are different to the United States. And we are very, very comfortable with that too. We have to negotiate whichever part we get. I don't think the option is to stay out. We have to stay in and negotiate it the best we can. Otherwise, I think we will lose more. I'm not saying that this is the winning strategy, but I'm saying that the other strategy will lose more. So, in my view, I think it's better to stay in, give across our viewpoint to the world body, and make our stance known. And I think that has come out very well, especially on terrorism, etc., etc. Those things have come out. Whether it has come in the joint statement or not, I've not been in a position to read it. As Happy Mona said, it's about 36,000 words. I think it'll take a night to get through, I mean, it'll take a whole day to get through that entire system. But it's a very big statement. If it is something small or something, we could have understood what they're trying to say. It's a very big document. So we'll wait at that. But in my view, I think it's a good thing we have gone in. Our stance is clear. And regardless of the fact that Trump wants to impose tariffs, which is the challenge to us, or China is supporting Pakistan, which is another challenge to us, we will negotiate both challenges separately, and we will do it the Indian way, which we have, I think the foreign policy has been following for the last 15 years now, or 10 to 15 years. I think we are doing it quite well. One of the strong points of India is, in the last decade, is really our foreign policy, which I think, in my personal view, we have never had it so good as we are having it now. Barkha.
Let me bring in Dr. Happymon Jacob, two very differing perspectives there on the value of BRICS, on whether it is worth it to go to a forum which has China as a key component at a time when the army has gone on record, Professor Happymon Jacob, to say that India was militarily basically taking on China, not just Pakistan. And we know now that China is trying to, also create an anti-Rafale campaign after Operation Sindoor. We have that information. We have an irritated American president. General Katot says, stay in the tent, negotiate. Ambassador Sinha says, stay away. What have you gained? You've just irritated Trump, with whom you already have a prickly equation. What do you say?
I think the reality is that the BRICS is expanding into irrelevance in some ways. This is now a rhetorical platform more than anything else. It's about 16,000 words, the final declaration. I have not been able to read the entire thing because it's 16,000 words. It's too long. It talks about everything under the sun. It speaks like a quasi-United Nations General Assembly. I don't think this is going to have much of an impact at the end of the day. Having said that, I think it is important to be part of several of these organizations and platforms and institutions, be it the BRICS, be it the SCO, be it many other forums that are probably not going to make much of a difference at the end of the day. The world is changing. The post-war international order is crumbling. We don't know what awaits us at the end of the Trump's second term. So I think it is important to sort of be part of various conversations, engage them, hedge them, cultivate them. Whatever strategy works, that has to be used, I think, at the end of the day. I think we don't have much of a choice but to navigate and sort of court these contradictions in the international system. China is clearly working against our interests, along with Pakistan, in that as was witnessed in Operation Sindoor. But the reality is that you go to talk to China on various other issues. China is one of India's biggest trading partners. There's no way you can avoid talking to the Chinese. The Americans are not really being very helpful at this point of time. That doesn't mean we can sort of stop talking to the Americans in the Indo-Pacific or the others. Remember, we have gone into this BRICS summit after the Quad Foreign Ministers meeting, and so it is not as if we can afford to choose one side of the aisle in the sort of global balance of power or contradictions, as it were, and sort of choose that and sit there comfortably. I think that age is that this is not the age for that in any case. But I think on the China question, my sort of argument is that it simply shows that you go to fight your own battles at the end of the day. The Americans or the BRICS or the SCO, none of these guys are going to come to help you when you are in trouble. I think as a country of 1.4 billion people, we got to sort of understand that and sort of put our systems in order to take on as and when there is a challenge, rather than depending on the Quad or the Americans or somebody else to come to our aid. I think security is going to be our own. Has to be our own responsibility.
Now, what's interesting is General Katot says that there is an Indian way of foreign policy, and foreign policy is in a good place. Many others would believe that what the period of Operation Sindoor has shown us is that China is not just being a patron state to Pakistan, it is in fact, as the deputy army chiefs, deputy chief of army said, was monitoring and providing live inputs to Pakistan, which is a very big allegation to make. On the other hand, you have a non-cooperative America. How should India navigate this minefield? Let's come back to that right after playing this statement from Donald Trump.
Trade letters that you're sending out on Monday, Secretary Bessent said that it would be a 3-week extension and that rates could go back up to the April 2nd level on August 1st. Is that what we should...
We're going to be sending letters out on Monday having to do with the trade deals. It could be 12, maybe 15. You know, Secretary of Commerce right here. And I guess, Howard, I would say it could be maybe as many as 15 or so. And they'll be going out on Monday, and some will go out on Tuesday and Wednesday, and and we've made deals also. So we're going to have a combination of letters, and some deals have been made.
So let me come to the foreign policy challenge of the time. Professor Hakmamun Jacob, I'll start with you this time in reverse, right? So look at this situation where your deputy chief of army staff, look at the things he's saying. He's saying the battle was fought on one border with 3 adversaries. The third he names is Turkey. He says China used Pakistan like a live laboratory, and there were live inputs being provided to China while this military escalation or military conflict was taking place with Pakistan. He specifically says China helped Pakistan with live inputs, right? Now, given this, do we need to recalibrate SCO, BRICS? Do we need to start seeing China as a biggest adversary, notwithstanding how much Trump has irritated us?
You know, Barkha, one quick word about what Donald Trump just said, in that clip. I think someone has to tell President Trump that the conversations taking place in forums such as BRICS about cross-border payment mechanisms or BRICS-wide payment mechanisms, they're just conversations. If you read the latest document, it basically says that there will be discussions about some kind of a payment mechanism among BRIC countries. So someone has to tell Donald Trump, these are just discussions. These are not going to be anything that will result in the creation of a payment mechanism at the end of the day. I think that's point number 1. Point number 2, insofar as China helping Pakistan. I mean, I think this has been known for a very long time that China has been assisting, abetting, and aiding the Pakistani military forces to corner India in South Asia. The missile program of Pakistan, the nuclear program of Pakistan have always been assisted robustly by the Chinese. So I don't think this has come to us as a breaking story in any sense of the term. I think if we are only waking up to it, I think that's our problem. I don't think we are waking up to only now. Now the reality is that this has been happening for a very long time. So we don't expect China to do anything other than helping Pakistan in sort of keeping India focused on Pakistan in South Asia. That's a reality. So I think Indian foreign policy has moved on from its sort of continental mindset and moved on to the Indo-Pacific. We are also now looking at conversations with Quad partners, be it the Koreans or the Australians or the Americans, others. I don't think we should look at the state or the health of the India-United States relationship only through the Trump prism. I think that's a mistake. The American establishment understands and certainly realizes the importance of India as a strategic partner. And I think there is a realization that once Trump moves on, things will get back to somewhat of a normal, if not exactly the same as it was a year ago. So I think mistaking the Trump phenomenon as a sort of barometer for the state of the Indo-US relations would be a big mistake, in my opinion. The Americans are still important as far as India's strategic positioning in the Indo-Pacific is concerned. That will continue even after Trump.
Let me bring in Ambassador Sinha at this point. This thought that we cannot choose one side of the aisle, that you've got to negotiate the Indian way with all sides. Do you think that, or do you think we have to be more agile for the times we live in? We have a problematic equation with Trump, but Happymon Jacob makes the point that India and US are more than Trump. Trump is not a permanent presence in the United States of America. But there are forums like SCO, BRICS, where China continues to be a key element. And I'm a little confused about China, because on the one hand, Trump Trump could cut a deal with China. But on the other hand, the army's revelations over the weekend about China's active role. You see, earlier it was thought that China would provide, okay, weapons, okay, moral support, help with sanctions at the UN. But the army is saying that China was providing live inputs to Pakistan and that the Indian military was taking on three adversaries. That's very different from what we have normally assumed about China's involvement. Do you believe, and let me ask a provocative question, do you believe a time has come to take one side of the aisle, or would you think that's naive?
Well, I agree with the points made by General Katoch and Happy Mon about the need for India to engage with these countries, with all major countries of the world. After all, we are a major power ourselves, on an equal basis. Now, with China, we have a major security concern. We have our dialogue going on with China. We also have certain trade concerns. The question is about SCO. What are we doing in the SCO? Now, the SCO was formed about 15 years ago on the basis that the 3-4 major countries that were emerging market economies, they got together to consult each other on a cross-regional basis. Now, that the progress in BRICS has been practically zero. The only thing that BRICS has there to show is the new development bank, in which about, I think, $40 billion have been dispersed, some 26 projects in India, including the Delhi Meerut Rapid Rail project. So it has a certain amount of development role that it has performed. But thereafter, nothing else has progressed. The Contingency Reserve Fund has not progressed, and a host of other dreams that were there, they have not moved forward. Now, when we are looking at the economic concerns that we have with China today, rare earth minerals being their restrictions, our automobile industry is shouting that government must intervene to rescue it. Then we have problems of our non-tariff barriers that our exporters face. Now, none of these are being discussed in the SCO. In the SCO, you have bland statements like the non-aligned movements declarations that we believe in a free order, etc., etc., etc. None of these concerns are being discussed. These concerns we have to discuss bilaterally with China, right? Now, so what are we doing in the SCO? The dream that the SCO had produced 15 years ago, that is gone, because at that time, China was one of the emerging market economies. Today, China claims to be is a superpower. Not claims to be, it is a superpower. It wants to be an equal of the US. 2 years ago, I was looking at the Global Times report of what had happened in the BRICS summit, and the Global Times said that India is obstructing China's initiatives in multilateral organizations like BRICS and SCO. This is the Global Times stating. Then it says that the US is using India to divide the South, and India is enjoying this role. But this is the perception that China has of India's role in BRICS. Now, when in SCO we blocked that statement because there was nothing on terrorism, China, everybody said that India is to blame, India is obstructing. Now, India has certain concerns. Like, these concerns are not addressed in these organizations. What are we doing in these organizations? At Pahalgam, okay, BRICS has got Pahalgam in, but no reference to Pakistan, no reference to state-sponsored terrorism.
Yeah.
So, what are we
So
compromising?
So basically, Ambassador Sinha, you believe that India should time to exit both BRICS and SCO, in particular SCO.
Yes, we have to deal with China on a bilateral basis as a one-to-one country, because our concerns are strong over there. And those concerns cannot be dealt with in a multilateral forum where we share nothing. The three pillars of BRICS are political and security. We have, our biggest security concern comes from China. Economic and financial, again, except for that development bank funding. Economic cooperation with China is a one-way traffic where they export and we can't export. And then cultural and people to people. What kind of culture? We just started one pilgrimage to Kailash Mansarovar. India flights had stopped. So all these concerns mean that we have very major bilateral concerns with China, which have to be dealt with bilaterally. A multilateral forum is a place where you meet because you share ideas and you share a certain ideology that we don't share with China. So what are we doing in BRICS apart from cutting each other, undercutting each other?
General Katoch, let's bring you in. Ambassador Sinha feels BRICS is right now, even with the reference to Pahalgam, without naming Pakistan, of no value to India. Further, it is irritating the American president. He also believes SCO is even more, in a sense, at this point, a redundant forum to be associated with. You may not choose a side, but you have to deal not in multilateral forums, but in bilateral dialogues. I think that's what I'm picking up from Ambassador Sinha. What do you say?
No, you see, I agree with the ambassador. We have to deal with China on a bilateral basis, but that doesn't mean that we don't join the other forums. You know, I agree that they're not doing much. I mean,
Trade
let us
letters
take
that
what is the UN doing? The UN is as dead a body as any. It's like a dinosaur. It's extinct. Yet we are part of the UN. So being a just being a part of an organization and then hoping that it'll deliver great results, that may not really be the case. But I think we need to be present there. Otherwise, you're left out of the picture. So be in the picture frame, regardless of the fact that anything worthwhile is being achieved or not. There is no cost really involved, but be there. At least then you're part of the conversation, and you can, to some extent, steer the conversation towards your direction. With respect to China, China will China will continue to keep India down. That will be their aim. They don't want a competitor, a peer competitor. And if China wishes to be the number one in the world, it first has to be the number one in Asia. And it cannot be the number one in Asia when India is there. That is their problem. So they don't want India to rise, and they will do everything in their power. So from our side, I think we've got to get our own act in order. Like in your previous shows, I have mentioned the two critical things: keep on with your economy, keep on with your military. Those two are vital parameters. If you don't have a strong economy and a strong military, then people are going to bully you. So we have now reached the stage by which people can't bully us anymore. We are in a position to stand independently. So Americans will try to put pressure because they have their interest. The Chinese will try to put pressure because they have their interest. But now we are telling them, listen, we have our own interests, and it doesn't really matter what you do. We will do what is in India's interest. That is the change which the foreign policy has taken place over the last decade. And I think that's a very vital change, because now, regardless of, I mean, just imagine, we bought Russian oil during the Russia-Ukraine war. We were buying the Russian oil, and nobody could stop us from doing so. Whereas earlier, we were seriously constrained. Now, slowly and steadily, those constraints are being removed. It's not a perfect world. We have to navigate in very, very difficult waters, and our diplomacy is good enough to do it. We've got now a political establishment and our diplomacy aligned, and I think they're doing it quite well. I personally am very satisfied with the way things are going, regardless of the fact that I agree totally with that, with the ambassador and with Dr. Happyman Jacob, that BRICS is not going to achieve much, and neither is the SCO. But that doesn't mean we don't be there. If you aren't there, then you're not in the picture. Be there. Let's do the best we can in those circumstances and take it from there. That's my view.
Sure. Let me give a quick last word, a closing comment to Dr. Happy Mon Jacob. On the one hand, we've had Donald Trump with the Munir meeting that very little is known about. We know that Asim Munir spent a few days in DC, was given access to Pentagon, CENTCOM, all the rest of it, meets Trump in a closed door meeting, maybe linked to Iran, maybe something else. On the other hand, you have China. General Katot says UN is also redundant, but we're there. You can't walk out of forums. You can't, Ambassador Sinha has ki ho gaya abhi chodo. But General Katot says there are many redundant forums. You remain part of it. How do you see the twin security challenges for India at this point? A recalcitrant Trump and an adversarial China.
Barkha, I think there is a time for substance. There's a time for, symbols. As far as the BRICS or the SCO are concerned, clearly these are of symbolic value. They create more rhetoric rather than anything that is substantive at the end of the day. To that extent, I totally agree with the Ambassador Sinha that we must engage China on a substantive level, one-on-one. Absolutely, yes. But I think if we come out of SCO or BRICS for that matter, you're not really being part of a neighborhood organization that is going to discuss certain things, even if that is of no substantive value. This has certain symbolic value. Number one, once you come out of these organizations, then these countries will discuss India in perhaps in sort of worse circumstances. They will sort of talk about India behind India's back when India is not there. I think that's probably not going to be a great thing for us. And thirdly, I think if you look at some of the conversations happening in BRICS or SCO, they of course talk about a lot of issues, including the questions on climate change, global governance. In fact, if you look at the BRICS statement, it talks about WTO, WHO, the Russia-Ukraine war. It talks about terrorism. I think some of these conversations have the potential for agenda setting in other global forums today or tomorrow. So we don't know what's going to be the nature of the global order going forward, say 5 years, 10 years from now. So some of these conversations could potentially feed into the larger substantive conversations. I'll end with one statement, Barkha, which is, I don't think we should give more value to these institutions or forums than it possesses. I think we must be clear-headed, and there must be a certain reality check that insofar as the rhetoric that is produced by these organizations do not harm the symbolic value that we can get out of these organizations, we should be part of it. I'm fine with the rhetoric insofar as that doesn't harm my substantive interests. So I think at the moment, the rhetoric that is produced by these organizations do not seem to harm my substantive interests, even though President Trump thinks otherwise. And I think he probably has not grasped the rhetorical value of the organization. He takes it too literally, I suppose.
All right, we leave it there. We should know more as Trump reveals details of his tariffs. How much his back channel negotiations with the Trump administration worked for India. What impact might that have? A lot of questions, a lot of balls up in the air. All you can do is try and juggle as many of those balls and catch as many of those balls as you can on your side of the court. Leaving it there, Ambassador Sena General Katoch, Dr. Happy Moon Jacob, always a pleasure. Thank you. And to our audience, thank you and see you soon.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.